rummaging around in their field, developing their own strategies. Thus, there were jealousies, influences, scandalous signings, which normally happens when someone gets in the way. There are only 2 cable builders in the world. What's more, each agreement, each contract we signed with these big companies, with these big operators at a worldwide level, firstly, were not written in Spanish. All the negotiations were carried out in English or in French. We were thus playing on a foreign field, and, moreover, the first clause was normally that of confidentiality. That is to say, what we are signing here today stays between you and me and cannot be revealed. As you can imagine, it was difficult, very difficult to verify whether this information was true or not. We did not know. They were a very small group withholding the information. Therefore, we needed a team with a highly developed negotiation capacity, willing to make sacrifices, having multidisciplinary knowledge on law, economy, technology, and above all, full of intellectual courage and willing to make sacrifices. Thus, we started developing the projects. This small David made of 5 people, one of them being Mr. Carlos Alonso, who is going to speak to you next, faced all the big multinationals. But I hand over to the man who is going to speak to you about all this, about the state of the current projects. Let us not forget that we will set the NAP in motion in a very few weeks, about all we have been talking about. Cables, connectivity, operators who will be able to function, about breaking the monopoly, this new era we are living in. Mr. Carlos Alonso, Vice President of the Cabildo of Tenerife and one of the members of this team that beat Goliath. So, Mr. Carlos Alonso, I give you the floor. Throughout their economic history, the Canary Islands have known how to develop economically, mainly by means of exploiting their privileged situation, which is their geographical location. Several sectors have done so. The agricultural sector, for example, produced seasonal products which they exported to Europe before the American continent, thus obtaining a competitive advantage which created income, jobs, and welfare on the islands. The same happened with the trade sector. Due to our geographical location, merchant boats on their way to Africa or America stopped over at the islands, which benefited from the provisioning of the boats and from all the activities linked to trade. Tourism is the last example of this process. The islands' proximity to their issuing markets, the mainland, the United Kingdom, Germany, and the rest of Europe, meant a competitive advantage over other beach and sun destinations which could not maintain the high season throughout the year, like the Mediterranean coast, or which were too far away to be competitive, like the Caribbean. This is what the Cabildo intends to do in other sectors with the D-ALiX project. To profit from our privileged situation, which is our geographical location in an emerging sector, which is already part of the economy today, but which will be much more relevant in the future. The new technologies sector, to create income and employment on the islands and thus to position the Canary Islands on this strategic geographic location for the development of information and communication technologies. The Internet has been developing throughout these last 30 years in a process of slowly concentrating traffic in a series of nodes, which first appeared in the United States, then in Europe, and in the north of South America. We also want the D-ALiX project to transform the Canary Islands into a link, a node linking the three continents by means of the development of telecommunications, to increase the penetration of the information society on the islands, creating qualified jobs and economic activity in sectors which allow the islands to diversify. We also want to serve as a base for new technology companies to operate in Africa, Latin America, and the rest of the world from Tenerife. All this will be achieved with the D-ALiX project. D-ALiX is the Greek root of the Spanish word for sea. It's the root of the Spanish word alisio, trade winds. In the past, the trade winds placed the Canary Islands in a central position in trade between Europe, America, and Africa. We think the D-ALiX project and the development of submarine cables will allow the Canary Islands to play this crucial role of concentrating the data traffic between Africa and the rest of the world in the islands. To develop this project, the Cabildo has deployed a series of infrastructures of the highest level from which the island of Tenerife will benefit, and through it the rest of the world, especially the West African coast. These infrastructures are the following. Firstly, a data center, a neutral access point with a total investment of over 25 million euros, which will be functioning very soon. In fact, in March 2011. It will securely stock data, information, and applications that circulate on the Internet. There is also a group of projects which will enable a better connection of the island with the outside world. The Cabildo holds 50% of the Canal Link project ownership, which will connect Tenerife with the mainland, Gran Canaria, and La Palma by a new system of cables. Full of dynamism, the Cabildo has also participated directly or indirectly in another group of projects which are currently being developed, as the President commented, on the West African coast, such as the WAX project, the MCT project, and the ACE project, ensuring thus that the three main projects linking Africa with the rest of the world pass through the NAP. Besides, we are already working on the future development of connectivity with Latin America, which is the third pillar which will allow the development of this tri-continental project. It includes our contribution to the amplification of an existing cable, which is the Atlantis cable, as well as our participation in the design of a new cable project joining Latin America with Southern Europe. Together with these projects of external connectivity, the Cabildo also wants to favor local populations by means of a development project of a main network which is currently being carried out and is due to be completed during this year's first quarter. It will entail the creation of a new optic fiber market on the island, as well as increasing the number of services and operators in Tenerife. All in all, it's a private and public investment of more than 110 million euros, which will ensure the creation of nearly 1,000 qualified jobs on the island, and will thus give a decisive impulse to Tenerife's and the Canary Islands' participation in the information society. This project will completely revolutionize the island's connectivity with the outside world, not only with the mainland, but also with the rest of the world. Connectivity is currently being controlled by a sole operator who uses a cable system based on the international cables which pass through the islands on their way to Europe and America or to Africa, such as the SAT cables and the Atlantis cable, which constituted a system of cables that enabled the connection of the islands with the rest of the world, but was controlled by a sole operator. This is today's picture. Tomorrow's picture will be completely different. Very soon in the current year, we will no longer have restrictions due to a sole operator's controlling input and output, and we will be totally connected with future African cable projects. We will have more cables, which is already very important, and we will be linked to all African projects connecting Africa with the rest of the world. And what's more, it will all be carried out in an open and competitive way, allowing a considerable reduction in the cost of connecting the islands with the outside world. This project would not make sense without an infrastructure capable of stocking the data and applications circulating on the Internet. This infrastructure is the NAP, the Neutral Access Point, which will be located in the south of the island, in Granadilla. Its construction is almost completed. It will open its doors in March 2011. We have already built approximately 60% of the total surface. It will completely revolutionize the telecommunications business on the islands. This system has been designed as a high-capacity redundant system, so that it will keep functioning in case of any meteorological event or other. Even if there was a general power cut on the island, the NAP would keep on functioning, thus ensuring data quality and security on its net. The NAP will be totally connected with the cables we have mentioned. In a final phase, nearly 7,500 square meters of raised floor will come into service. It's a very important infrastructure, which has already been awarded the European Best Data Center of the Year award. Moreover, it will increase the capacity and possibilities of development of new technologies, not only in Tenerife, but also in the whole of Africa. It's also an extendable project which can be developed in successive modules to reach a total surface of 7,500 square meters. It was ecologically designed. The total energy the data center consumes is less than the renewable energy sources produce in the same data center and in the ITER, Renewable Energies Technological Institute. It's the only case of a data center with a positive energy net balance in favor of renewable energies, and maybe this is why it was awarded the prize. In the end, due to the Cabildo's initiative and due to the development of the NAP as well as of exterior and local connectivity, we shall enter a virtuous circle, which means that a bigger and better infrastructure offer will reduce companies, families, and the whole population's connectivity costs. There will be new services and therefore an increased penetration of the information society, which will entail the development of information and communication technologies infrastructures at a worldwide level on the island, thus placing the Canary Islands and especially Tenerife in a central and very competitive position regarding the international and West African coastal ICT, information and communication technologies sector. This will increase the ICT sector on the islands, the number of qualified jobs, and the number of ICT companies, and it will hence diversify production on the islands. The ICT sector will make a bigger contribution to the GDP and to employment, which will entail a bigger connectivity demand from these companies, as well as bigger telecommunications infrastructures demand, thus closing the circle. The islands will therefore enter a new phase, which will be a reality as of this year, where we will have more telecommunications operators, more telecommunications services, more users benefiting from this project, more digital content, more qualified jobs, more quality in telecommunication services, and more wideband capacity for users at a much, much lower price. Thank you very much.